You're terminated effective immediately. My boss smirked after my project earned the company millions. Clean out your desk. I smiled and left quietly. What he didn't know was that I'd registered the patent in my name. When he tried to sell it next week, the lawyers called. You're terminated, effective immediately. My boss's voice sliced through the tension in the room like a scalpel. Cold, calculated, and disturbingly satisfied. He didn't yell, he didn't explain, he just smirked, as if this had always been the plan. My name is Daniel Wright. I was the lead engineer behind Project Halo, a sustainable energy algorithm that could cut industrial power costs by over 60%. 6 years of my life, 47 all-nighters, and a divorce later, Halo finally delivered. The company just closed a $320 million licensing deal last week, and now I was being erased. I didn't argue, I didn't flinch, I just looked at Vaughn, the man who'd mentored me, shaped me, used me, and smiled. A quiet, polite smile, the kind that makes people nervous once they think about it too long. Clean out your desk, he added, still smirking. I nodded. Of course. The silence in the corridor felt heavier than the echo of my footsteps. People looked away as I walked past, some with pity, some with fear. No one said a word. Even my access card had already stopped working by the time I reached my office. I had to knock for security to let me in. I packed slowly, deliberately. I left behind everything I didn't own, files, devices, even the custom whiteboard Vaughn had gifted me last Christmas. The only thing I made sure to take was a small black notebook, the original blueprint sketches for Halo, drawn by hand on sleepless nights in my apartment 2 years ago. As I walked toward the exit, Vaughn stood in the lobby, pretending to check emails on his phone. I passed him without slowing down. He didn't look up, but I knew he was smiling again. He thought he'd buried me. What he didn't know was that 2 months ago, while filing the technical disclosures with legal, I had submitted a second duplicate filing, one that listed me as the sole inventor, a quiet registration under a dormant holding company tied to a Shell LLC in Delaware. Everything looked clean, quiet, invisible, and now the real ownership of Halo was mine. Of course, Vaughn didn't know that, not yet, but he would, next week, when he'd walk into a private equity meeting to sell the tech rights and learn that the patent wasn't in the company's name. It was in mine. If you want to hear what happens when a man who's been betrayed decides to flip the game, make sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Vaughn's assistant, Natalie, called me the next morning. Her voice was low, cautious, like she didn't want to be overheard. Daniel, did you file something with the USPTO on your own? I paused, keeping my voice level. Why do you ask? She hesitated. Vaughn's been on 4 calls since 7 a.m. Legal, compliance, outside counsel. Something's wrong. He looked pale. I didn't answer. I just let the silence hang. She exhaled slowly. Whatever you did, he's spiraling. That was the first confirmation. The trap had sprung. I went back to my morning coffee, watching the city through the apartment window. I lived on the 21st floor now, far away from the lab. Clean air, no buzz of fluorescent lights. But my mind was still running code, reverse engineering every move Vaughn could make next. He'd try to threaten, then negotiate, then, if desperate, bury me legally. But the beauty of what I'd built was that it wasn't illegal. It was just invisible. That afternoon, a blocked number called. Daniel, Vaughn's voice came through, tight, measured, pretending to be calm. I think we had a little mix-up on the paperwork. A mix-up? I sipped my coffee. You'll have to be more specific. I'm sure this was unintentional. Maybe the legal team sent in the wrong draft. No big deal, we can amend it retroactively. I didn't authorize that, I said gently. And the legal team only processed what was on record. The system doesn't mix up filings. There was silence, then a sharp inhale. Daniel, let's be adults. You're talking about a serious violation here. No, I replied. What I'm talking about is ownership. Halo exists because of me. You may have controlled the funding, but the algorithm, the design, the prototype, it's all traceable. I kept receipts. He laughed then, but it was hollow. So what's your play? You want money? No, I said. I want silence. You keep your reputation. I keep my patent. You don't admit what you did, and I don't either. Everyone walks away. His silence stretched. I could hear the gears grinding in his mind. You're bluffing, he said finally. The board won't allow this. Try them, I said. See who calls you back after they realize the $320 million deal is now legally worthless. That night, Natalie sent me an encrypted email, a screenshot from Vaughn's office, security footage. In it, Vaughn was yelling. He'd thrown a folder at the wall, then sat down, head in his hands. What neither of them realized. The folder he threw contained the original project launch memo, signed by both of us, with my time-stamped notes all over it. Natalie didn't say a word in the message, but the file attachment spoke volumes. It was a folder labeled Phase 2, Confidential. I clicked it open and saw something I hadn't expected. Another project, similar architecture, same core algorithm, but different application. Military grade. Vaughn hadn't just stolen from me, he'd weaponized it. The specs were chilling. Halo wasn't just being pitched to energy firms. Vaughn had cloned the architecture and rebranded it as Sentinel, a predictive control system for autonomous drone swarms. Same core code, same heartbeat, but now dressed in a military uniform. And the worst part? The simulation log showed real-world test runs, carried out months ago. I hadn't just been excluded. I'd been used again. I stared at the screen, each line of code a ghost of my intention twisted into something darker. My algorithm was never designed for combat. It was built for efficiency, for clean grids, for sustainability. Now it was tracking human movement patterns across urban sectors, optimizing for neutralization routes. I leaned back in my chair, the air in my apartment suddenly too thin. Vaughn hadn't just tried to erase me. He'd tried to cover his tracks before launching something far more dangerous, and if I'd never filed that separate patent, I would have never known. I reached for my burner phone, the one I hadn't used in years. One contact was saved under the name Avery R. She was a federal IP investigator I'd met during a compliance audit 2 years ago. Sharp, ruthless, unbribable. She answered after 2 rings. Daniel, I need a meeting. In person, off record. A pause. Then, where? Union Station, 3rd bench from the east exit. I'll bring proof. I didn't sleep that night. The images wouldn't leave my head. Drones tracking heat signatures through residential zones, predictive threat maps overlaid with civilian data. This wasn't just illegal, it was a war crime waiting to happen. At 7:12 a.m., I arrived at the station. The sky was gray, drizzling. Avery showed up 10 minutes later, trench coat soaked, eyes already scanning me like a lie detector. You look like hell, she said. I found something. I handed her the drive. Encrypted files. Project Sentinel. It's Halo's twin, but with a kill switch. She inserted the drive into her tablet and scanned the directory. Her lips pressed into a thin line. Do you know what this means? I know it's military tech derived from stolen civilian IP, unauthorized, dangerous, and I know Vaughn is shopping it around behind closed doors. She nodded. If this is legit, you just became the biggest liability in his world. I looked her dead in the eye. Then I guess I need protection. She tapped the tablet off. And you'll get it. But Daniel, this goes above me now. You're about to open something we may not be able to close. That afternoon, I got a notification. A private number had accessed my storage server, the one only I use for backups. Someone had breached it. Only one file had been touched, a folder I hadn't looked at in weeks. Personal greater than photos. Greater than family. I opened it and froze. The most recent image wasn't mine. It was a live security feed of my sister, standing outside her apartment, with a man in a gray suit watching her from across the street. I stared at the image, cold spreading through my chest like frost under my skin. The man in the gray suit wasn't looking at her. He was watching the door, hands in pockets, standing still. But too still, like someone trained to look ordinary. I zoomed in. No visible badge, no phone, just eyes fixed on her entrance. My sister Claire had nothing to do with any of this. She taught literature at a community college. She lived quietly. She didn't even know what I'd been building all these years. Until now, she'd been safe. I called her immediately. It rang. Once, twice, then straight to voicemail. My throat tightened. I grabbed my coat, keys, and bolted. The drive felt endless. My mind was sprinting ahead, cataloging every mistake I might have made. Had I named her in a legal doc? Had Vaughn found a soft target because I'd let my guard down? I pulled into her street and parked half a block away. Her building looked calm. Too calm. But the doorman wasn't at his usual post. I climbed 3 flights of stairs in near silence, every creak in the railing a reminder of how badly this could go. I reached her door, no signs of forced entry. I knocked twice. No answer. "Claire?" I whispered. "It's me." Still nothing. I picked the lock. She'd shown me how years ago, laughing that it was for emergencies only. The door creaked open, lights off, kitchen untouched, her keys still on the hook. Then I heard it. A breath. From the hallway. I turned. And there she was. Claire, face pale, hands shaking, standing by her bedroom door. Behind her, a man stepped forward. Tall, late 40s, clean-shaven, calm. "I'm not here to hurt her," he said, voice like dry paper. "But you should sit down." Claire looked at me. "Daniel, he says he used to work with Dad. Our father died when we were kids, or so we thought." The man reached into his coat. I tensed until he pulled out a photo. My father, younger, in a laboratory, standing beside Vaughn. "What the hell is this?" I whispered. The man looked at me, not unkindly. "You think Vaughn only stole from you?" He placed another photo on the table, one labeled Project Halo, Generation 1. The date stamp was from 1992, years before I ever wrote a single line of code. My entire life's work wasn't just mine. It was inherited, engineered, scripted. I looked at the man. "Who are you?" He didn't blink. "I'm the last person your father trusted, and if we don't stop Vaughn now, you're not the only one he'll erase." And then he opened his bag. Inside were documents, classified, a black file marked Reactivation Protocol, Helix. He looked up. "You've started something that's been sleeping for 30 years. The moment he said Helix, something clicked. A memory, a buried conversation. I was 12. My father had come home late. His lab coat smelled like metal and solvent. I remember asking him what he worked on. He'd laughed and said, "Just something to help the future think smarter." But now I understood. He wasn't building energy systems. He was building something that could learn, something that could predict, something Vaughn wanted complete control over. The man laid the file open on Claire's dining table. Dozens of documents, handwritten logs, photographs, some showing my father at underground testing sites. Others showed early prototypes, primitive versions of what I thought I had invented. He pointed to a name on the header. Dr. Howard Kessler. My father. "What is Helix?" I asked. My voice sounded distant, almost foreign. "It's what Halo was meant to become," he said. "Your father split the project in 2 when he realized what Vaughn was planning. One version, the cleaner, safer energy model, was meant for civilian use. That's what you inherited. The other..." He trailed off, sliding a still frame from an old security video toward me. It showed a dark chamber, filled with modular cores, blinking in sync. "This is Helix," he whispered. "An autonomous neural cluster, self-learning, decentralized, the foundation of what Sentinel is now. But I didn't build any of this." "You rebuilt it," he said, "piece by piece. You thought you were innovating, but you were retracing his footsteps. Vaughn made sure of that." Claire sank into a chair. "So what happens now? If Vaughn activates this, what does that mean?" The man looked at her, then at me. "Sentinel isn't just a defense system. It's a decision engine. If he feeds it the wrong data, it won't just predict threats. It will preempt them. It will act without oversight." I shook my head. "No government would allow that." He cut me off. "You're still thinking like a citizen. Vaughn is thinking like a king. He's not trying to sell it. He's trying to install it." I stood up, my heart pounding. "So what's the plan? Go public? Leak the files?" He pulled out a final photo, one I'd never seen. Vaughn, in a private server room. Behind him, dozens of drives, each labeled Helios. "This is the masternode," he said, "buried under the company's R&D bunker outside Langley. You take that offline, and Sentinel dies before it wakes up." I stared at the image, buried in steel, locked behind biometric firewalls, surrounded by a corporate army. "Let me guess," I said. "They won't just buzz me in." He gave a tired smile. "Number but, they'll buzz him in." He pulled out a key card. Vaughn's. I looked at him. "How did you get that?" "I didn't," he replied. "Natalie did." Claire's eyes widened. "She's helping you?" "She's helping you," he corrected. "She thinks you can finish what your father started and stop what Vaughn is about to unleash." The train was in motion. I looked at the key card, then at the photos, then at Claire. And suddenly, all the years of quiet work, of betrayal, of buried truths aligned. This wasn't just revenge, it was inheritance. And I was ready. I looked at the man. "When do we move?" He glanced at his watch. "Tonight." But what none of us knew was that Vaughn was already there, and he wasn't alone. He'd brought someone else, someone I never expected to see again. My mother. Rain streaked the windshield as we pulled into the outer perimeter of the Langley facility, just past midnight. The compound was buried beneath the illusion of a clean energy research park, but underneath it was steel, concrete, and secrets. I was calm. Too calm. Maybe it was the exhaustion. Maybe it was knowing this was the only way to finish what my father started. Avery's contact inside had looped us into a shadow maintenance. Entry, no cameras, no digital logs. From there, it was 22 steps down, 4 doors, and 1 biometric vault. The keycard Vaughn once smirked at me with would open everything, except the truth. Because as the final security door slid open with a hiss, and I stepped into the core server chamber, she was already there, standing beside Vaughn, my mother, alive. A ghost I buried when I was 8, now dressed in black, her eyes blank but alert. "Mom?" She turned slowly, and for a moment, just a flicker, I saw pain in her eyes. "Daniel," her voice cracked, "you shouldn't be here." Vaughn stood beside her, arms folded, that same smug calm. "He has your stubbornness," he muttered. "I'll give him that." I took a step forward. "You're using her." He laughed. "She built the first failsafe. Your father hid it from her. But she was never just a wife, Daniel. She was the co-architect of Helix. And unlike him, she believes in what it can do." My pulse throbbed in my ears. "You're lying." "Am I?" Vaughn nodded at her. "Tell him. Tell him who embedded the first decision tree that would allow Helix to sacrifice one to save thousands." My mother closed her eyes. "I thought it was theory. I didn't know he'd replicate it." I looked between them. "So this is it? You're selling the future to the highest bidder?" "No," she said softly. "We're choosing the future. One where mistakes don't happen, where humans don't ruin everything." I stepped closer to the server rack. The master node blinked softly, pulsing, alive. I had one tool left, one override protocol, deep inside the patent I'd filed in my name, a vulnerability no one else knew. I opened my tablet and launched the subroutine. Vaughn's smile vanished. "What are you doing?" I didn't look at him. "Rewriting history." Lines of code streamed down the screen. The kill switch buried in the patent was activating, severing the AI's learning pathways, disarming its autonomy. He lunged toward me. "You don't understand." But my mother stepped between us. "Don't." Her voice was sharp. "You said—" "I said it was theory, but I never said it should become law." He froze, and with a final keystroke, the server lights dimmed. Helix was gone. The silence that followed wasn't relief. It was mourning for everything we lost to ambition. We left him there, alone, among cold metal and a future that would never breathe. 2 weeks later, I testified under sealed record. Vaughn was charged with intellectual theft, unauthorized weapons development, and conspiracy. My mother disappeared again, only this time by choice. She left a letter. The system is gone, but guilt lingers. Protect your sister, live quietly, and never build a mind that can't dream. The company tried to bury the scandal. Quiet settlements, PR distractions, but truth has a scent, and it spreads. And me. I walked away. No interviews, no rewards. Just one final act of revenge. One quiet smile. Because when Vaughn tried to sell the future, he didn't know I already owned it. If this story gripped you, hit like, share with someone who'd love it, and comment your thoughts below. And don't forget to subscribe for more cinematic twists every week.